Welcome to HDTV. You're now rocking with your boy. I was gonna do a live, but I said no. I'm just gonna chill today. I did a live earlier this morning, and a lot of people came out to support, like T Hubbard, C Pen for the win. Others, if um Joe Cool. I'm probably gonna do one tomorrow, and it's just been a crazy day of sports and everything. And to me, the Lakers, they got Marc Gasol, so there's nothing wrong with that. Now the thing is, the greatest, to me, when you're trying to say who the greatest is, it's a combination of not only stats but the impact and the skill that you had on the game. You can be a guy to be statistically great, but but at the end of the day, you could be historically great, but you still not making an impact on your team. And people kind of look at it like, well, what you mean? Well, what I mean is this. When you're picking your five greatest receivers, people would go to John Stallworth, Lynn Swan, Art Monk, Terrell Owens, Steve Smith, Moss, Jerry, Michael Irvin, Chris Carter, Calvin Johnson. But my fifth receiver, Art Monk, is honorable mention. I don't want to take nothing from Art Monk. Art Monk was the truth. Art Monk was a beast out there, man. Art Monk dominated, being 6'3". In 2008, he finally made it into the Hall of Fame. It was a travesty that Art Monk had to go through that. And then, of course, you got the award named after him, Fred Biletnikoff. Biletnikoff was a beast back in the day. You had an award named after him, and he was amazing. I mean, his trajectory of getting the ball and being 6'1" was amazing. Now, back in the day, older receivers like that, yeah, you can try to judge their greatness. And then also you had Don Hudson with the Packers. You had Steve Largent with the Seahawks. You had Lance Allworth with the Los Angeles he's with the Chargers now, but when they were San Diego, that's who he played for, and Allworth was a beast out there. So when you create these lists, it's basically who you feel is the best. To me, the fifth greatest receiver of all time. And people, may get mad. They may throw stuff at me and be like, man, what the hell is you talking about, HD? You is tripping. You tripping, I tell you. But the fifth greatest receiver of all time, and people may not like it, but I'm going with Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison played 13 seasons. Not only that, he damn near broke every record in the Colts handbook of wide receivers. The guy was amazing. Big catches, he made them. Um, to get off of the blocks and get off of the presses was amazing. To me, he elevated Peyton Manning more than Peyton would elevate him. And that's not disrespecting Peyton. It's just that I just think Peyton gets over glorified a lot. You know, one of the biggest games Marvin had was that AFC Championship game. I believe they were playing Colts. No, the Patriots, where they beat the Patriots to get to the Super Bowl and beat the Bears. Marvin had some big catches that games. He was getting open, he was making the plays, doing what he does. Now people are like, well, why you got him number 5? Because Marvin was amazing. Marvin used to catch damn near everything. I rarely saw Marvin drop anything. And Marvin was probably the best or one of the best route runners we've ever seen in history. His impact on the field was great. Now, if you want to put Art Monk over him, I have no issue. Art Monk was a monster. Art Monk, if you got him number 1 overall of all time, you have no argument out of me. But Marvin Harrison, who was inducted, I believe, in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, he was inducted in 2016 over Terrell Owens, and Terrell Owens got mad. And I was like, Terrell, you better calm down. Marvin Harrison shoot people, and he gets away with it. But Marvin Harrison was a better receiver than Terrell Owens. He had better hands. He ran better routes. Terrell Owens was a lot more stronger, and Terrell Owens was a better I would say Terrell Owens was a little better run after the catch. Once he got the ball, he was a freight train running down the field. But Marvin Harrison, as far as route running and hands, clutch moments, big moments, the little guy at 6 feet, I believe. I believe he was at 6 feet. Yeah, 6 feet. I think he was 5'10. He looked 5'10 to me, made it happen. And when he retired, that really hurt the Colts. Yeah, they got back to the Super Bowl, but they really weren't the same. Reggie Wayne and Peyton really didn't have that rapport like Marvin had with Peyton. And that's sad. But yeah, that's my number 5 receiver of all time. My number 4 receiver all time, he's currently playing, is Larry Fitzgerald. Now, everybody's going to be like, Larry Fitzgerald, where the hell did you... Larry Fitzgerald, for his size, to be 6'3", his size, and to run the routes and have the hands he has is amazing. In that playoff run, when they were in the playoffs, they got to the Super Bowl, Larry Fitzgerald he was balling. And he's done that on consistent basis. He's done that all the time. He's made big plays. He's come up big. Not only that, he's a leader. He's a leader. He leads by example. He can get vocal and get guys up like, yo, man, I need you to do this, need you to do that. And to me, him and Marvin Harrison were very underrated blockers when it came to the run game. See, to be a receiver, I don't just take your stats. I take when you blocked, when you never had the ball in your hands, what do you do? Terrell Owens, if the ball was not in his hands, Terrell Owens, I say, was probably the greatest blocker or one of the greatest blockers ever in history at receiver, hands down. But Larry, at 6'3", to run the routes, to have the precision, to get the jump balls, to hit to play with so many quarterbacks and still be able to put up damn near over 1,000 yards and 100 receptions a season is downright is amazing. I don't care if the rules have changed. Larry Fitzgerald played a little bit. He could have played in our era any day. Any day. And basically, he played in that old school era. a little bit where they still were knocking receivers out coming across the middle. Because Larry's 37. He's 3 years older than me. But Larry Fitzgerald's longevity, not only that, it's just the way he played the game. He never got upset. He keeps the same energy. He plays his game. To me, he grew up around Randy Moss. He learned a lot of things from Randy Moss and being the ball boy for Minnesota. That kind of went with him. So he had that attitude and that leadership from an NFL day one, which was amazing to me. And I enjoy watching him still today. He's teaching Kyler and DeAndre Hopkins. One day, DeAndre Hopkins might be up here. Um, so that's my number 4. My number 3 receiver of all time is, you can call him the GOAT of receivers, is Jerry Rice. Albeit Jerry Rice used stickums, I was gonna ding him for that because he used stickums and he admitted he used stickums. Hold on, let me see if I could find that. Jerry Rice used stickums back in the day. So that kind of dinged him. And he basically admitted to it that he used stickum. Now he used illegal stickum on gloves during his career. And that's why I didn't put him up there. Now people are gonna be like, "Well, dog, are you gonna ding him even further for that?" I could, but Jerry Rice ran some pretty routes. You can't really take him out of it. His route running was so amazing that you forget he used stickums. You forget Jerry used stickums because Jerry was so polarized. And when he stepped on, Jerry Rice was the Michael Jordan of the NFL. Hands down, he was Michael Jordan of the NFL. When he stepped on the damn field, that his presence just, his will just trumps you. It just trumps you. It's like a mythical creature or a mythical figure walking out like a Hercules or Achilles saying, "I'm here. Now what? Do something about it." And he had that attitude. Now, albeit he played with 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks in Joe Montana and Steve Young, but Jerry Rice, man, like if you go back and watch his old games from the 80s and then some of the 90s, Jerry Rice route running it never falls off. This guy ran, I think, a 4.8 in the 40. Yeah, 4.7 in the 40. But he ran routes like he ran a 4.3. It was the most amazingest thing I've ever seen. And him and Dion used to go at it. He used to get his catches on Dion, and he used to ball out a lot. And that's why I said Jerry Rice, man, he is the Michael Jordan. He is the GOAT. He's the GOAT or the Michael Jordan, whatever you want to call him, of the receivers that I've ever seen. Even if I put Jerry Rice in today's game, Jerry Rice would triple those numbers he had. Jerry Rice could translate to any era, just like Marvin Harrison, just like Larry Fitzgerald. Those guys could transfer to any era. And Jerry Rice, I believe, is the all-time leader in a lot of stats. I don't think anybody's going to break it. So he's my number 3. The only reason I put him at 3 is because even without us knowing about Stickums, these 2 receivers that I'm going to put over him were flat out better than him. Running routes, catching, impact on the game. I'm sorry, I got to take these 2 over him. Now, the number 2 receiver of all time, Megatron. I'm just playing. Megatron's in my top 10, though. But my number 2 receiver of all time, people are gonna be like, man, you tripping. It's Sterling Sharp. Sterling Sharp revolutionized the game at receiver. He was really the first big receiver we've seen who could run routes and he could take the ball out your hand. He could take it over you. He could run the slant right. Deion Sanders even said it. This is the only guy I could not stop. He could not stop Sterling Sharp. He could stop Jerry. He could stop Michael Irvin. He could stop everybody else. But Sterling Sharp, Deion Sanders admitted, because he's fast, he's physical. I'm gonna see something. Did he hold on. And Sterling Sharp used to give Deion the business. Deion used to. I'm trying to see if I could find it where Deion talks about. Because Deion Sanders said Sterling Sharp and Chris Carter used to give him fits. Now, Chris Carter's in my top 7. But Sterling Sharp, you could say, is like the Gale Sayers of receivers. He just got cut short. I'm trying to see if I could find it for you guys. Because it's amazing how he's not in it. But I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to figure out because Sterling Sharp used to give everybody the business. Um, if I could find it, but I'm trying to see where it's at. Because because I used to watch him in Dallas, and when he played Dallas, Sterling Sharp used to kill Dallas. Um, trying to see if it's there. They don't have it, but I know this is going long, guys. Just be patient with me. I apologize. I apologize for taking a while. Okay.
About it, but I do believe my brother is worthy of being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Okay, here it is. This is Shannon Sharp, Deion, and them explaining why Sterling Sharp is my number 2 receiver of all time, and he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Like, I don't really talk a whole lot about it, but I do believe my brother is worthy of being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Your brother should have been. Y'all clapping because it's a great statement. I'm clapping because I played against him. And his brother was a dog. First of all, if you bump him, he gonna manhandle you and beat you down. And you back off. If he catch it and face you up, you got some problems. So his brother was a dog that you did not want to deal with. And how in the world is he not? And you got some busters in the Hall of Fame and he ain't? I don't understand.
So that lets you know Deion Sanders just told you. If you bumped him, he would just manhandle you. Sterling Sharp was a monster out there. And I just don't understand why he's not in the Hall of Fame and why people just don't understand football, because I watched it. So you could talk all this trash about, man, I know what I'm talking about. I played the game and I watched it. Sterling Sharp is the number 2 receiver of all time, hands down. I'm sorry, he was better than Jerry Rice. He was bigger, he was stronger, he was faster, he was quicker. He ran his routes just as good, if not way better than Jerry Rice. And it's a travesty that number 84, the real number 84, not Shannon Sharp, it's Sterling Sharp. He's the real number 84. And he's going to continue getting snubbed because people are trying to forget him. And if it wasn't for injury, Sterling Sharp would have been the greatest receiver of all time. And I cried today because people don't understand how great this guy was. And I tell people, even then, I said, oh, you want to know who the best receiver is? It's not Michael Irvin. It's not Jerry Rice. It's Sterling Sharp. Now, the number 1 receiver of all time. And y'all know who I'm going to go with. I'm going with Super Freak. Randy Moss. Randy Moss. Randy Moss. Randy Moss revolutionized the game when he came into the league. And guess what? He didn't have to use stickums like Jerry Rice. Now, here's Jerry Rice talking trash about Randy Moss' statement saying that he's the greatest wide receiver. If it ever plays, I mean, dang. It's taking all day. Hold on, guys. This dang internet is tripping. Hold on. And this is the reason why I knocked Jerry down some. Because to me, this really made Jerry look like really petty. And now I definitely see why him and Deion didn't get along. If it ever plays, I mean, it's taking all day for this thing to play. And Moss was more than a one-trick pony. Everyone wants to say, all Moss could do is go deep. Well, yeah, Moss ran a 4.19. You know, that's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to go deep. He's supposed to go get the ball. That's his damn job. Jerry Rice, Randy Moss could beat you going deep, and Randy Moss could run routes. Randy Moss could run the ins, the outs, the hitches. He ran these routes. It's just that he was so lethal going deep, you just send him deep all the time. Well, for some reason, this thing here just does not want to play. And it's getting on my nerves. But, yeah, Randy Moss is the greatest receiver of all time. He revolutionized how defenses guarded receivers. Before, they just used to put a corner out there on the island against the receiver. Or they used to bracket cover guys. When Moss came, they had to throw cornerbacks out there. They had to take safeties off.
18 years ago today, the last time the 49ers were in the Super Bowl, taking on the Chargers in Miami.
Here's the video of Jerry Rice throwing shade.
Including 3 to Jerry Rice. Niners rolled San Diego to become the first franchise to win 5 Lombardi trophies. Rice finished with 149 yards on 10 catches. Meanwhile, Randy Moss still trying to get his ring. As for the other thing, here he was today.
You know, you talk about this and this. I think that this year has been a down year for me statistically. The year before I retired was a down year, and then in Oakland was a down year. So I don't really live on numbers. I really live on impact and what you're able to do out on that field. So I really do think that I'm the greatest receiver to ever play this game.
Over the course of his 20-year career, Jerry Rice amassed more than 1,500
catches,
22,000 receiving yards,
in impact. Jerry Randy Moss told you I had more of an impact. And Randy Moss played with some of the worst QBs in history.
Rings 3-0. So Randy had his say, entitled to his own opinion, no question. But then so too is our Jerry Rice.
You know, I was really surprised that Randy Moss made that comment, because how can you not bring stats in or how you impacted the game? I impacted the game by winning Super Bowls. So I'm sure Randy is still trying to win his first one, and I wish him the best. But I was very surprised that he said he's the best receiver to ever play the game. I leave that up to my fans to make that statement.
Well, we'll start with you, Chris. And you know, we talk about when elite quarterbacks, right? Eli comes out, he's elite. We're like, well, what do you expect him to say? You got to have confidence in yourself. Now, you played with Randy Moss. Actually, you both played with Randy Moss. You played the same position on the same team at a very high level. What'd you make of his comments? GOAT, greatest of all time.
Well, in the last 30 years, Randy Moss is one of the great receivers. I would say he's in the top 5, probably in the top 3. Jerry Rice being number 1, T.O., Randy Moss, those guys are in the category. But when you look at wide receivers, you got to look at what they do. Let's look at route running. Was Jerry Rice better than anybody at that? I would say yes. Let's say catching the football. Randy Moss might have slightly better hands than Jerry Rice. Let's say yards after the catch. Yards after the catch was created for Jerry Rice. That's the impact that he made on the National Football League. And let's say scoring ability. Randy Moss, best big play receiver in the history of the game, but the most explosive receiver in the history of the game is Jerry Rice. So when you look at categories up and down, you want to have intangibles as far as durability, big plays in big games. Jerry Rice, to me, is one of the top 5 greatest players on any position.
Yeah, football players, just football players. Yeah, Jerry Rice's numbers that you showed, they're undeniable. All right, Jerry Rice's work ethic is undeniable. How he approached practice, all right, how he was off-season training, everything. The fact that he was able to play, 20 years. The way that he took care of his body to have that type of longevity, and now he was looked to as an example by his teammates every single year on how to be a professional and how to get things done. Listen, I've seen Randy Moss do some things that I have never seen another receiver do. I mean, I've seen Tom Brady throw the ball up in the air and think to myself, there's no way he's getting that. Right. Yes. But he would get it, okay? Yes. And he was special in his own way too. But Jerry Rice, it's just undeniable the greatness that he has.
Now, Randy Moss might be the best athlete that's ever played wide receiver. But when he started this pursuit in the national...
Randy Moss is not the best. He was the greatest receiver ever. And not only that, Jerry Rice was a hater. Jerry Rice hated on Deion Sanders. He hated on other receivers who even thought about being in that conversation with him. I think Chris Carter had better hands than Jerry Rice, personally. Jerry Rice used stickums. The only reason he's in my top 3, because really I would knock him out of my top 5 because he used stickums. But a lot of the older receivers like Biletnikoff and all of them guys, allegedly, they were using that stuff probably. They may have or they might not, but they never admitted it. Jerry Rice admitted it, saying everybody was doing it. So I can't really knock him for that. But as far as impact in the play of the game to change the game, Randy Moss changed the game. Now, if you want to go off of hard work, longevity, lead by example and everything, then Jerry Rice is your guy. Jerry Rice was a better leader than Randy Moss was. But if you look at the teams Jerry Rice played on, he really didn't have to be that big of a leader. He had Joe Montana, who's my 4th or 3rd best quarterback of all time. He had Roger Craig at running back, who was a leader. Ronnie Lott was a leader of that defense and polarized the whole team. Ken Norton Jr. on that team was a leader. Steve Young was a leader. Then he went to Oakland. Rich Gannon and Tim Brown were there. They were leaders. Tim Brown was a leader. Tim Brown's underrated too. He's in my top 10. But if you're talking about the greatest of all time of receivers, I'm sorry, it's Randy Moss. Randy Moss, when he caught a screen pass, a wide receiver screen, and ran up the sideline against Dallas, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest receiver we've ever seen. And then when he went to Oakland, his first year, he got over 1,000 with Andrew Walter as quarterback and Jamarcus Russell. In Minnesota, he was with an old Randall Cunningham, an old a Brad Johnson who got hurt a lot, who was decent, a Jeff George, Dante Culpepper. Then he went to Andrew Walter and Jamarcus Russell. Then he went to Tom Brady. He made Tom Brady better than what Tom Brady did to him. He made Tom Brady probably the greatest quarterback we've ever seen. He was amazing. This guy could catch everything. Bruce even told you, if the ball thrown up, he was like, this man ain't finna catch it, and he would catch it. But Jerry Rice shows you that, I'm sorry, you use stickums. Chris Carter even came out and said, I didn't use stickums. Sterling Sharp didn't use stickums. Shannon Sharp didn't use. None of these guys use stickums. So for you to admit that, I'm sorry, that dings you. And even if he didn't use stickums, Sterling Sharp and Randy Moss had better hands than Jerry Rice. They were better players, complete players. And if you think I'm crazy, go watch the film. Go pull up Sterling Sharp and Randy Moss, full games, not just the highlights. Go look at their low and their highs. Jerry Rice has dropped a lot of balls as well. You just don't see it because he made more catches. He made the big catches more than he didn't. And a lot of the clutch big catches that were made in the games were by John Taylor, his counterpart in those Super Bowls before the 94 one. John Taylor was catching the big catches. So not to take nothing from Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice is a phenomenal player. He wasn't the biggest, the fastest, the strongest. He just did what he had to do. He had that it factor, that intangible, that I want to win drive. So those are my top 5 receivers. I got Randy Moss, number 1. Number 2, I got Sterling Sharp. 3, I got Rice. 4, I got Fitzgerald. 5, I got Marvin Harrison. So let me know in the comment section who is your top 5 receivers of all time. And please be respectable. If you don't like the list, that's fine. It's my top 5. It's not yours. But if you got a list and everything, tell me your list. Let me know who's the best in your list of receivers. Next, I will be doing the QBs. Now, the receivers of I would do top 5 receivers of 2020. I would do that this week. I will let you know who I feel is the top 5 of the best receivers that we've seen this year, and you might be surprised who I pick. Let me know in the comment section who's your top 5. Who do you like? Who is the 5 greatest receivers you feel in history? Please be respectable. You know, if you're disrespectful, YouTube blocks it anyway. They have some type of filter up if you say a cuss word or be disrespectful, they'll retract your statement. So thank you for listening. And shoot, we out. Oh, and donate to the page. If you want to donate to the page, cash at me at the word welcome, the number 2 HDIITV. You could donate there, cash at me there. If you're having trouble finding me, please hit my email up in the description box and let me know what your cash app is, and I will send you a request so you can donate. If you do find it, it should have Harry the Second next to Welcome to HDTV. If it's not Harry the Second, do not trust it. It's somebody else. You're filling their pockets up. So thank you for listening, and we're out. Live boy.